YYKYK, which obviously YD. Okay?
Yeah. Dutcher and Hardy, mornings on the Sports Hub.
Are you familiar with prediction markets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I don't really know. Do we know, does anybody actually know how they work? How is it different than just gambling on a line?
I don't know, but apparently people in government are highly involved in these prediction markets, and they're highly involved in the things that are being predicted, so who knows? But I will tell you this, that there is a prediction market out there for Josh McDaniels being the new head coach of the New England Patriots, and that the odds of that have doubled from 13% to 26%, with $373,000 being wagered in the last 2 weeks. This is according to Page 6. There was, information that came out that Rossini and Vrabel were going on a big boat ride. There's some pictures that came from that too, while she was pregnant.
Pontoon boat.
Now, TMZ has said her son was not named Michael after Mike Vrabel. He was named Michael after Michael, her brother. But she did say it was the coach and the best coach player thing. But nonetheless, that plausible deniability, and it doesn't really matter anyway. Does any of this affect? I mean, this story I don't think is going to go away this offseason. And who knows what Rossini's going to do. Again, if I'm Diana Rossini and I want to get back in the media, that requires going on, press tours and things like that. And, everyone's going to insist that you talk about this.
Yep.
There's a big wild card there with Vrabel as far as he knows. And according to the Irish Times, which Bird, is the paper of record, Diana Rossini's about as upset about this breakup with Vrabel as she was with anything else. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the Irish Times, and go against them at your own peril. But nonetheless, if this thing continues, is there any chance that the Patriots are considering getting rid of Mike Vrabel?
I would say at this point, it's definitely not in their plans to move on from Mike Vrabel. And, I think if you look at the actions of the Kraft Sports, it's been I think it's been a month now, right, since the photos came out. Almost everything has been done in an effort to protect his employment, to protect the team's image. So, I think if it just keeps going the way that it's going right now, which is drips and drabs, and I think, to me, the most likely scenario with these pictures coming out, and this is just my thought on it, right? But I think the most likely scenario is it's people who are following this story, oh crap, in 2023.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I took a picture of Mike Vrabel. I wonder if she's in it too. And oh my God, she's in it. And now I'm going to go to TMZ and see if I can get $20,000 for it. Right?
No, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, the guys that they rented the boat from said, oh yeah, didn't he come rent a boat? I wonder if she was with him. And then they looked at the logs and found out that she was. And then, so on and so forth. Yes. Right.
And so, that's the part that no one has control over. And
Mike her.
Vrabel, Diana, no one has. And so, if it's just this, right, continued drips and drabs that kind of continue to fill in the blanks of what we sort of already know, then I think the Patriots just ride it out. Now, what could be worse is if, I think it would have to almost be more women coming out, or there being some sort of breach of trust within the organization where Mike Vrabel was serving his relationship, here over the team in certain way. I think it would have to go to a different level. I think what we're seeing now is this story, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Fred, this story has very clearly crossed the Rubicon from sports story into celebrity gossip story. And I think as we're all finding out, that's a totally different world. The idea of it seems ridiculous that the origin of a 4-year-old's name is a story. That is, holy crap. I can't believe that's we're talking about that right now, but that's where we are. And that's what happens when this crosses from, again, a sports story into a celebrity gossip story. And like, quite honestly, I think that this is sort of what happens when you mess with Page Six. I know that sounds weird.
Well, that's the thing, is if they never would have denied this,
right,
then it never would have gotten to this point. And
then you know what? Like, I think it's pretty logical the way you look at it. It's like any reporter, and I said this to you guys like the last couple of weeks, like any reporter is, if you say that I'm factually wrong on something, I'm going to come at you with the heat of 100 suns to try to prove what I'm saying is truth.
And they're all named Michael. Yes.
It's just the way a reporter reacts in these situations. It's like, if you're going to call my credibility into question, well, I'm going to go 10 times harder to prove that you're wrong, right? And so you do that with the Post, and then what that does is that basically ignited, like almost like an old school newspaper war between Page Six and TMZ. And now TMZ feels like they need to keep up. So like it's sort of turned into this feeding frenzy. And again, like you lack any sort of control over it when it gets to into that realm, which is right where we are right now. Okay,
so the NFL's not investigating. I don't think the Patriots fire him. I mean, I don't know how you can do that. But, the Vrabel is married, and the only way to really stop all this stuff from coming out is for him not to be the coach of the Patriots anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you really wanted to squash this story, if you're not the coach of the Patriots anymore and Rossini's not working for The Athletic, then what's the point? Right. Like, I mean, then you don't, then, I mean, certainly I wouldn't talk about it anymore. If Vrabel's not the coach of the Patriots, it's not, none of it matters. Like, it's just their own thing. The only thing that's intriguing about it is two things, as you know, Bert, is that they lied and that he's the coach of the Patriots. The only way to get this to stop is to not be the coach of the Patriots anymore. And I don't know that the Patriots are all that concerned about the story stopping. Like Bert said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not. The Patriots can't do anything. There's nothing they can do about it. I wouldn't fire Vrabel. I'm saying, but if I'm Mike Vrabel and I want the story to stop, the only way I can get it to stop is not be an NFL head coach, is to take a year or two away from the public spotlight and let this all die down. And then if I come back and coach somewhere else in 2 years, which I'm sure he could, they bring it up once and then it's over. I would argue, like, one thing that would slow it down that you probably can't do because it would affect too many people in and around the story, right? We're talking about spouses, children, all of that. I think the one thing that would slow it down would be a full and truthful explanation. Right. Because then, like, I think there would be less of this filling in the blanks. There'd be less of this, like, oh my God, there's Diana 7 months pregnant on a dock with Mike, and an hour or whatever east of Nashville during a dead time in the NFL calendar going off on their own. Like, if there was like a full and truthful explanation, again, like, I just don't think you can do that because it's going to affect too many people. You can't, but if in the personal orbits of these people, of Mike and Diana. But if you're Rossini, though, and you want to tell your side of the story because you want to get, you want to work. I mean, she's a young woman. She wants to work. She should be able to work. I mean, she's not going to work as an NFL. I agree. I mean, she should be able. This should be up to individual media companies, right? So, right. But her future doesn't lie as an NFL reporter. In fact, it could lie in a bigger thing. She could be like a personality, and so the thing that if I'm Mike Vrabel that I'm the most concerned about is that if she gets divorced and she doesn't have this job, she's got nothing to lose. Now, I'm not saying she's going to be vindictive or right, say anything bad about him, but I mean, she goes on Call Her Daddy or something, like a sympathetic voice, right? And she's like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm madly in love with him. I'm madly in love with him. He like held me like no other man held me. Like for 6 years we were in this passionate relationship. Like I just can't get him out of my head. And then there's a lot of attention gleaned from that. And then, maybe I write a book, and now we're really in a wild card situation where you're really not controlling the narrative. And, she can even make herself sympathetic, like I was just in love, and I can't.
Right.
You can't control who you fall in love with. And Vrabel's sitting there, and he can't say anything. And that's just the thing, is that because look, I don't think there's any way the Patriots even could fire him. I don't even know how you could fire him.
And
he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
but the thing is that if you want it to go away, if you're Mike Vrabel, the only way is to really step away. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can always fire somebody. It's whether or not you can fire him for cause.
I just don't think that you can fire him and justify it to the fans.
That's the thing, Brett. I don't think there's any way that somebody could come up with a story and vet it accurately and come up with some connection to like Rossini's reporting and how that was influenced or affected by her relationship with Vrabel.
Well, certainly not negatively. I mean, if anything, it would help Vrabel.
Dug into that though, Hardy. Like a lot of people have already dug into. Like, did she influence the market on Julio Jones 5 years ago? And like, there's obviously those questions now. A lot of Philly people are upset about the A.J. Brown thing, which I don't think she did. I know the way these things go. And I would just, Fred, to your earlier point about going and kind of opening up that way. Diana is tough and competitive and like a really good reporter. And I say that I have a ton of respect for the job that she did over the course of the last decade, because it's a tough job, and I don't know that she'd be fully, and this is just me talking, but I don't know if she'd be fully willing to give all of that up. And I think if you break the trust of someone and start telling every single thing and all of this stuff that went on, it's going to be really hard to ever be an NFL reporter again. And I know what you're saying, that maybe that's over for her based on everything that's already happened, but she has to be at peace with that being over, because if you do that, like if you go and spill all this different stuff, right, about all this stuff that happened that was so far off the record, you can't even so far off the record, then you're never going to get somebody to trust you again, Right. And so that's something that I'm sure she'd have to grapple with as she decides what to do. And that's a really hard thing, because you're talking about giving up something that you've, poured a couple decades into building.
But you're also more famous
completely pivoting and going in a different direction.
Yeah, but you're also more famous than you've ever been by miles. Right. Yeah. And you can take advantage of that. And from what I've seen from interviews, she loves sending baked goods. And Hardy talked to someone the other day that, you tell it, you say it.
Yeah,
this is funny.
This is just last night. I was talking to a friend of mine who didn't know the backstory on Diana Rossini sending us the baked goods after we had goofed on her podcast, and not for anything about her being a woman or anything inappropriate. It was just a lame sports podcast that we goofed on, and she sent us the baked goods saying, "Oh, it's my job to keep the men fed in this industry," and ba. And we were laughing about it. I said, yeah, she's got really thin skin or rabbit ears. I don't know, how she even found out, because it happened immediately. It was either the same day we had talked about it or the very next day. But he said, well, maybe Vrabel told her. And I said, yeah, almost like we had considered that. And then I said, I don't know if we actually considered that. And that makes a lot of sense, because we know that, the certain elements of this team in the past anyway have gotten practically dossiers handed to them of things that were said about the team the day before. Or maybe if someone were just listening that day, Vrabel, was he the one that ratted us out to Rossini?
Or was it you, Bert?
Dude, it's funny you say that, because it's actually funny you say that, because and I'm not saying Vrabel did, but somebody, I bet you it was probably somebody in the Patriots organization, because that happens to me a lot, where somebody with a team will call me and say, hey, I heard you said this about me or that about me. And then I have to kind of rack my brain, what show was I on? And where did I say, oh yeah, here's where it was. This is what I actually meant by that. You know what I mean? So almost always, Hardy, in circumstances like that one, where somebody hears something that you said about them, right? it's almost always somebody else passing that along.
Yeah,
Oh, no, it was
and don't
definitely-
look too far away from that person. It's not like some stranger messaged her and said they're talking crap about you. Like,
Right.
keep it simple. What's the most obvious explanation on that?
And again, you have to understand how benign this was. And it was her talking to O'Connell O'Connell
Minnesota.
from Minnesota. Yeah. And it was just the goof was she was like pumping up the importance of her podcast. And so we were goofing on that. And so it didn't it was nothing that got picked up by media. It was nothing about her with men. It was nothing about any of that. It was like really odd that she said.
I encounter stuff like that a lot.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, I encounter stuff like that a lot, like where somebody will come to me and be like, I heard you said this. And I then have to go back. Okay, like what exactly did I say? No, there's an explanation for this, and almost always it's someone trying to stir crap up. You know what I mean?
oh
It's
no,
like
for
somebody
sure.
was
I
friends
knew.
with the
Well, I
other
knew
person.
that, but just what was funny with what Hardy's friend mentioned that we never considered because we don't think of ourselves that way at all.
Is that maybe it was Mike himself?
That which listen, now we're like speculating on top of speculating. I do know that she was probably pretty thin-skinned about it because she was having sex with the coach of the Patriots. I would have to. That's a logical assumption. That's not crazy, but it would be pretty funny if Vrabel was just happened to be listening to the show, which is not outrageous. I mean, he would go on at 6 a.m.
It's a good show.
But whatever, he was checking. He was
It could be
flipping
something
around.
as simple as like, man, those guys in the morning show up here do not like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be something? And then I
It
could
should be a
start.
bad boyfriend thing to do. Don't go out of your way to tell somebody that, you're being made fun of.
I'm your advocate. I'm your advocate, though. I'm keeping tabs, honey, baby. Look at these fools were giving you a hard time, and I'm stepping in and I'm telling you.
See, at the end of the day, we're all still those 7th graders trying to instigate a fight at recess, right?
No, I was just trying to do a funny bit about someone pumping up their podcast. That was all that was the intention. I wasn't, somehow, Bert, at the time, I didn't think her and Vrabel were having sex.
Missed
like,
that.
But now,
That didn't occur
I'm
to
thinking
me.
they may have been.
in fact, the amount I knew about Diana Rossini at the time of that segment
Right.
Bert, could have been fit on the back of a matchbook. I was unaware of her career. I knew that she worked for The Athletic and was an insider. I did not know I don't even know if I had ever heard her interviewed before. So I've seen her do interviews, but I never heard her interviewed before. I didn't know anything. And it's not like after we did it, we ran around and went, well. It was just, I didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
That's how odd it was.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm still mentioning it, we used to have her note
Pinned right up there,
in front of here because it was so weird. But I mean, now I almost have more respect for her because now I understand, you were having sex with the coach for 6 years. Like, I get it. Like, you're a little thin-skinned about that.
Did we lose the note? Is the note gone?
I threw it away out of frustration.
I'll come get
Fred.
it. I know where it is.
You know where it is?
Oh, you didn't throw it away.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Thank you.
No, I thought I threw it away. I didn't. I thought that.
Did you guys eat the baked goods?
I did.
I did not.
I refused.
I enjoyed croissant.
I thought they might have been poisoned. I thought Diana Rossini was trying to poison us. Do you think she was trying to poison us, Bert? Go on the record. Bert thinks Diana Rossini was poisoning local radio hosts.
They're listening, Bert. Be careful.
I'm not going to accuse anybody of attempted murder here.
Oh, Jesus, you suck. I thought you were an insider. All right. Bert's going to continue with us. We'll move on from that. But we appreciate you talking about it. We'll be back in just a moment. Big show on the way.
Need a little help getting started in the morning?
It's very dangerous.
They've got the experts.
So, no.
Toucher and Hardy.
No.
On the Sports Hub.
We were just talking about Aaron Rodgers before you came on, and apparently the Pittsburgh All Sports radio station broke the news that he was in town to sign his contract. It'll be official by the end of the week. And then we were talking about what's the end game here for Pittsburgh. I mean, Rodgers is going to keep them just out of contention to get a real quarterback for the future. And, I understand they hired the head coach in part to make sure that he would return, but it seems that Pittsburgh is kind of lost here.
Well, just judge them by their actions, John. I mean, I think, like, for most of us that saw the way the last couple of years went, it felt like this was the offseason where they should rip the Band-Aid off, right? And it made sense, too, because, Mike Tomlin walking away, maybe this is the time to find your next 30-something head coach, the way Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin were all rising young guys when they hired them. And I think the first sign of the way they were going was to hire Mike McCarthy, which told me they don't want to sink to the bottom of the league. They don't want to be bad. And I know that sounds weird saying it that way, but, I don't think ownership, Art Rooney and them had much appetite for, okay, we're going to be 5-12 this year, and we're going to reset, and we've gotten too old, and we're going to hit the button finally and start a rebuild. And then you follow their actions since then. And they signed an almost 30-year-old corner in Jamel Dean. They traded for an almost 30-year-old receiver in Michael Pittman, and they signed a running back, they signed a running back who's going into his 8th year. And I just look at the totality of it, and the totality of where they are tells you, like, we still want to take one more swing, at least one more swing with the core of players, Jalen Ramsey, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. And so I think the signs were there all along that they knew Aaron Rodgers was probably coming back for another year, and that they wanted to give it one more go with the core as presently constituted, because they didn't want to sink to the bottom of the league.
But they're not going to win a championship.
And I think that's the way most of us see it, right? I'm with you, John. I think that's the way most of us see it. But I think that they view this swing at it as better than the alternative. And I think they've probably known for a while that Aaron was coming back. But the thing is, everybody's so careful around him. Like, no one – I feel like the last couple of years, like, everyone around him is walking on eggshells talking about him because they don't want to be talking for him, because that could change his decision-making process. So last year, this year, the Steelers have been very careful in the way that they've talked about this. So, like, I think that they've had an idea this was the way it was going for a while, but they were very, very careful not to talk about it in a way where, it seemed like a fait accompli that he was going to come aboard. And again, like, the signing of Rico Dowdle at running back, the trade for Michael Pittman at receiver, the signing of Jamel Dean at corner, all those moves tell you that they weren't planning on handing this team over to Will Howard or Mason Rudolph.
But they're going to be bad. I mean, we have an example here with the Patriots. After they blew all that money in free agency, they just delayed the inevitable. I mean, there were some smart people running that organization. They're going to be bad, and they're going to be bad possibly when there isn't a historically good quarterback class coming in.
And that makes me wonder what they're going to do with this Texas Tech quarterback. That makes me wonder.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's a Texas Tech quarterback that would have possibly been a high first-round pick next year that's
Sorsby, does that make sense?
Sorsby, Sorsby.
So he's involved in the big gambling probe that's going on, and there's a chance that he's in rehab for gambling now, and there's a chance that he could enter the supplemental draft. And he's a hot name to look for that. Every 10 years, something like this happens.
This is, like, fascinating, too, because he's more or less admitted to the wrongdoing already, right? He's in rehab. And for people who don't know, he was at Indiana for 2 years, Cincinnati the last 2 years, transferred to Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a NIL deal with him for $6 million to play this year. And he is admitting to having gambled on Indiana football while he was on the roster, which is like a cardinal sin, of course, in any sport. And so, like, the NCAA, I would say, like, the rules are really black and white on this right now. If you bet on any team at your school, doesn't even have to be the team you're playing on, then you lose your eligibility. So he's hired Jeffrey Kessler, who's like the boogeyman for all the sports leagues, right, to come in and try to expedite a decision from the NCAA here and see if they can negotiate some sort of scenario. And Texas Tech has lawyered up too. If they can negotiate some sort of settlement where he'd either be suspended for 3 games or 6 games, but could still play this year. This kid wants to play college football this year. But it seems like the NCAA is going to have to draw a line in the sand here, and this is going to be a big precedent setter for them. And then he's going to have to make the decision whether or not he fights them in court, which it doesn't seem like very likely that that would be successful because this is so black and white, and he already admitted the wrongdoing, or just go into the supplemental draft. And this is a kid who had a chance, if he played well this year, to be a top 5 pick in the 2027 draft. So now, if you're the Jets, if you're the Cardinals, if you're the Dolphins, if you're the Browns, teams that kept their powder dry and didn't take a quarterback in the first round this year, do you throw a second-round pick at that? Or if you're the Steelers or, say, the Vikings, do you look at it and say, well, we're going to be picking at the bottom of the round anyway, so, like, let's just throw our first-round pick for next year at it. Like, it's going to be really interesting over the next month and a half to see which way this goes.
Yeah, it's always good when this has happened before, if you'll recall. There's been guys, big names taken in the supplemental draft, and some of them have panned out. So it will be interesting to see what happens with this.
It's been a while, though, since we had a big name. I mean, Steve Walsh was one in 1990 or 89. And then, like, Bernie Kosar is the most famous one. But, like, it's been a long time since there was a potential franchise quarterback sitting there in the supplemental draft.
Yeah.
The rehab that he's doing for the gambling addiction, this Texas Tech quarterback, is it something, Bert, to your knowledge anyway, that he is doing because he truly has like a gambling addiction and this is something he needs to get a handle on? Or is this something that he was compelled to do in order to still have a career? Because if it's the former, then that's a bit of a red flag for bringing someone into your organization.
For sure. Well, and what does the NFL do about it? You know what I mean? Like, there's the Terrell Pryor precedent from whatever it was, 2011, where the NCAA suspended him for 6 games. He said, "The hell with it. I'm going to go into the supplemental draft." And then the NFL decided to match the NCAA suspension because they wanted to make the point we're not going to be safe harbor for people that have NCAA violations. So in this case, like I don't know how you would match banishment, which I think is what it would be,
Yeah.
But, I think that there's that piece of it too, which is like, A, does he have a real problem?
Right.
And B, even if he doesn't, what's the NFL going to do about it? And is the NFL, and I think that's part of why you hire Jeffrey Kessler and the legal team they have, Hardy, is you're trying to force clarity here, right? Clarity from the NCAA, clarity from the NFL. Where does everybody stand on this? So you can make a coherent decision on what's next, And I'm sure to some degree there is a public relations / image element to going into gambling rehab. My understanding of it is a lot of the bets were, there was a story out there about how he was gambling. He was sitting at a Cincinnati Reds game, and piled up like $1,000 in $1,000 in betting on bets on balls and strikes, and so it's stuff like, there was a lot of stuff like that was going on, and obviously all that stuff is very easy to track now through those apps.
All right.
You know what quarterback I was thinking of that I had to look up that I couldn't remember? Remember Dave Brown was taken by the Giants?
Right? Was he Duke?
Yes,
Duke?
He was the Duke quarterback, and that's the last one I remember being a big deal, was Dave Brown. People thought they were brilliant for taking Dave Brown.
Yeah.
But strangely, I couldn't remember the name.
This guy's super interesting. I had an offensive coordinator who I talked to who studied him say to me that, like, the arm talent is, like, similar to Caleb Williams. And I'm going to give you guys a name that settles this off too. Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Zach Wilson, and say what you will about Zach Wilson, but the arm talent was there, you know, like that's the sort of like ability this guy has now, and he's a big athletic kid. So there's a lot, he's got a lot going for him. He's going to be an interesting study for teams, I think, because I think some teams are going to look at it and say, well, we don't see ourselves picking in the top 10 next year, so let's throw a second-round pick at this now. If we get him, then we don't need a quarterback next year, which means we could spend next year's first-round pick on another position.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you think this, I mean, if you look at how much trade markets switch between the beginning of the day after the draft till the next draft, I mean, they swing wildly. I saw mock drafts that had the kid from Clemson getting taken number 1 right after the draft last year, and he ended up being
he's a New York Jet.
Well, yeah. Now it will work out for sure. At least he's in a good environment to coach him up. He's got Frank Reich there, so that will do a guy good. And he can sit behind Russell Wilson, hopefully. Hopefully Russell Wilson signs that deal. I thought they actually turned him down, but they wanted him.
Nope.
Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited. Get him in there because they're trying to build culture, and that's the guy you want in there for that. All right. Breer, thank you. A lot of stuff to talk about today. We do appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you. We will be back in just a moment. Here are the headlines.
When it comes to the show, Hardy thinks the same way you do.
Nothing happened.
He's got the same questions.
Where is the story?
And the same opinions.
Boring.
And he's back with Fred on the Sports Zone.
Why don't you just do the show for a minute and have the puppet talk for you? No, you have to speak.
It doesn't work that way.
No, the puppet itself does not speak. It still needs your words.
Fred's very happy with one of the puppets.
I've never used a puppet before.
Yeah.
Hi, Fred. You're better looking. I don't understand. Why does it not make noise when I use it now? Yo, yes, I know. You're me. Nah, it doesn't work with me.
It doesn't work.
No.
It's broken. Send him back.
I don't know how you got that to work. I put on @FredToucher, and I collaborated with @Toucher and Hardy. The note that Diana Rossini, I can't believe it's taken us this long to put it up, but the note that Diana Rossini we keep referring to sent us last summer, I guess, when we were goofing on an interview she did with Kevin O'Connell. And the only song it was a quick decision, but The Other Woman by Ray Parker Jr. was the song that I decided.
Oh, that's nice.
John's
Good.
call, yeah. Good call, John.
They say, well, no, that wasn't John's call.
No, that was Fred's call.
Oh.
Fred's call. And I
see.
said, Ray Parker Jr.
John said Uptown Girl or something. It didn't really make sense. John, you had ignored John's suggestion because it was really just like out of the blue.
always says Sir Mix-a-Lot. He says, just use Sir Mix-a-Lot. Use Sir Mix-a-Lot. And we're like, John, it doesn't apply.
Yeah. He was like, use Flight of Icarus by Iron Maiden. And we're like, what?
Use the song from Marillion.
Use Fish Heads.
Nothing wrong with that.
Use Another One Rides the Bus. Come on.
One of Weird Al's best.
If you don't know, John used to listen to the show Dr. Demento, which is so on brand. You know when you're first like getting to know someone and you make assumptions about them, and then you start asking questions and then inevitably one of your assumptions rings true.
But it's not always an assumption. It's something so over the top that you think this couldn't be true. There's no way you're making a joke, but that ends up being on brand.
Well, it's like a hypothesis.
It's the glasses, isn't it? That's what leads you to this hypothesis.
Well, you just look at John and you go Dungeons and Dragons, and then he's like, yeah, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and then you go Dr. Demento, and he's like, yeah, I listened to Dr. Demento, and you're like, all right, you're checking some boxes, and you're like, were you in the band? And he's like, I was in the band.
Maybe.
Was it a woodwind instrument?
Yeah, and just.
Well, you wouldn't have guessed that right away.
No, I wouldn't have guessed woodwind.
No.
I would have given you at least
saxophone,
trumpet.
All right.
All right. Do they even have those bands at school anymore? My son had a game at St. Sebastian's yesterday. He was at 105 pitches on Saturday. He wasn't throwing nothing. But I went in there and there were these kids in, like, when I was walking to the field, because, I have to drop my parents off everywhere, like, right in front because they're 84s. They can't move around like they used to. So, but I was walking, I had to park on the street, and I was walking up to the field, and there were these kids playing music. And they were really good, because I thought it was people lifting and playing country music, but then it turned out it was the band room, and they had the windows open, and that they were playing, and I was very impressed.
Well, you're talking about marching band or performing band at concerts in the spring? What are we talking about?
Like, I just didn't know if my daughter's school or my son's school has an opportunity to play music. Like, I don't know if there's a marching band necessarily.
I can tell you there is one at Natick. That's all I can tell you.
You got a scholarship?
Walking the dog around, the high school like I do most afternoons/evenings. I hear them practicing.
That was like a world that I was so unaware of. Mm-hmm. Like the world of the marching band at North Farmington High School. I was completely unawares of what was going on.
It's cool when you see it, though. There was a jazz band that played at one of the events I went to last week. Now, I don't know if it was a school jazz band or if there was the Dorchester Boys and Girls Club, that it was, they were the ones hosting the event, but they had like a student jazz band up there. They were good. Like, they're legitimately playing and sounded like a band that you would hire to come play.
Yeah, but the marching bands at schools is like its entire subculture. Like, it's its own ecosystem. It's like a biodome of students.
Well, at Avondale High School, I can tell you that the football team was just for the kids who weren't good enough to make the marching band. So if you weren't good enough for band, then you just played football.
So it was like a historically black college where the biggest position you can have in the student body is like the drum major.
The drum major was the cock of the walk,
right?
The BMOC,
big band on campus.
Correct.
Okay, because at North Farmington, I could not tell you one person that was in the band. Not because I was cool or anything, just because it was like they kept a very tight unit. Not a lot of outsiders allowed into the band area, from what I gather.
It's the way it should be.
I also couldn't tell you if we had a soccer team. That's another thing I couldn't tell you. Are you convinced there was soccer in late 80s, early 90s suburban Detroit?
There was a soccer team. I know that because my girlfriend in high school, we broke up for a time, and she started dating the goalie of the soccer team. That's the only reason why I was aware we had a soccer team.
Did he have a middle part?
No, he did not.
Because when I went to Rollins, the soccer team was like the big team. And some of my fraternity brothers were on the soccer team. And if you looked at a picture of the soccer team, 90%, those who didn't have curly hair, had fashioned themselves middle parts in Umbro shorts. It was a whole
mid-90s, right? That was a big thing in the mid-90s.
Well, it was a soccer thing at the middle part. No, it was soccer and Revenge of the Nerds.
We didn't have golf, tennis, any of that in my high school. What we did have was a pool at the school.
Oh,
and so we had a swim team. The swim team and the wrestlers. They were the ones that were the most like off on their own, doing their own thing. Football is so big to where those guys would do other things.
Right.
The wrestlers only really wrestled, and the swimmers swam. That was it.
Well, swimming requires so much of your time, and it got to be year round. So I can only imagine.
Yeah.
That just sounds like hell on earth. But I know I had a friend who was on the wrestling team, and the teachers let him dip in class to make weight.
To keep his weight down.
Because, Lord knows, injecting that amount of saliva. Because his name was Mark, and he was a friend of mine. He was a really good guy. But he was like a light wrestler. And I remember when I first transferred into North Farmington, I was like, they're letting you dip? Because I knew him from sports. I'm like, they're letting you dip? And he's like, yeah, I got to make weight. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But they're like letting you use chewing tobacco in class. And he's like, yeah, I'm a wrestling team.
Yeah. Appetite suppressant.
And then I thought about it. I'm like, if I'm the teacher, am I going to tell him not to stop dipping? Do I care enough to go like get that dip out of your mouth?
The kid, I've told you, the kid who was a year younger than me when because I did take band, first hour band class, he and I were both drummers, and he would sit back there with me, and he would dip Kodiak and not spit. He just swallowed it.
Yeah.
And I was 16, 17, which meant he was 15 or 16. Just back there, putting it 7:30 in the morning.
Our assistant baseball coach used to swallow his own dip and brag about it. And we're like, you're the biggest loser. Like, you've just graduated here and you're assistant coach of the baseball team and you're swallowing your own dips and you're trying to tell us that you're cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flaws to that argument.
You're going to have a hole in your stomach by the time you're 22.
Well, and also you're like 20 and the assistant coach of your ex-high school's baseball team. Like, this isn't, you're not a rock star here. Now, if he was cool, no one would have had a problem. But he bopped around like he was like a hot S. And we're like, no. Decidedly not hot ass. No. Like a job at McDonald's down the street would be way cooler than you. I don't even know if you're making any money, and this ain't gonna lead to nothing. So here we are. Yeah, he was a dick, and we were like, dude, you're like 2 years older than us. What's your deal? And like, I'm not sure I knew you when you went here. All right. Anyway, we'll be back. Tyler Milliken. I don't know anything about this, but Tyler Milliken apparently told a story from his personal life that is worth investigating, and we will have that for you in just a moment.